Hi, we're going to look at the first half of a pronouns presentation. Earlier we had talked about nouns, and we hopefully are very aware that a noun is a person, place, or thing. Now we're going to talk about pronouns like he, she, it, I, we, you. And we have the reason why, because a pronoun is a word that takes the place of one or more nouns. And by taking the place of a noun, a pronoun can eliminate unnecessary awkwardness in your writing. So I got this from Schoolhouse Rock. I have a friend named Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla. I could say that Rufus found a kangaroo that followed Rufus home, and now that kangaroo belongs to Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla. I could say that, but I don't have to because I got pronouns. I can say he found a kangaroo instead of Rufus found a kangaroo. He found a kangaroo that followed him home instead of that followed Rufus home. And now it, instead of the kangaroo, is his. Instead of the kangaroo belongs to Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla. If we're going to talk about pronouns, a lot of sentences will have antecedents with them. An antecedent is just a cool word to say over and over again, antecedent. An antecedent is the word that the pronoun replaces or refers to. So, for example, in this sentence, Dan, did you win the leading role in the play? You is the pronoun, Dan is the antecedent, because this pronoun you is referring back to Dan. Joseph and Audrey said they would be coming later. They is a pronoun. The antecedents are Joseph and Audrey. They is a plural pronoun. We're expecting more than one person, right? Like they and them. It's more than one, and so we have more than one more than one antecedent, Joseph and Audrey. If we didn't have pronouns, the sentence would read, Joseph and Audrey said that Joseph and Audrey would be coming later. And that's just awkward. There's no place for that in the English language. Last one, did Lisa say she would join us? Seth asked Charlene. We have the pronoun she. The antecedent is Lisa. She is referring to Lisa. She is the pronoun. Lisa is the antecedent. Did Lisa say she would join us? Us is the second pronoun. The antecedent to us is Seth and Charlene. Again, us is a plural pronoun, so we're expecting two antecedents. In this case, Seth and Charlene. If we didn't have pronouns, this sentence would read, did Lisa say Lisa would join Seth and Charlene? Seth asked Charlene. Again, clunky and awkward, and so we have pronouns. Feel free to pause the video here as we look at different pronouns. The personal pronoun is the most common kind of pronoun. And just like when your English teacher would talk about narratives, first person and third person narrative, that's because the narrator would use a first-person pronoun or a third-person pronoun. Go ahead and pause as you see fit. First-person narrator would say things like, I did this, and we went to the store, and the bear chased us, because the narrator is the person speaking. We don't talk about second-person narrative too much. A second person is when the narrator is speaking to you, the reader. This would be more like an instruction manual. First you do this, and then you do this. And then finally a third person. It's like when you're speaking about somebody else. It's not the narrator, him or herself speaking. It's not the narrator speaking to you as a listener or the reader. It's the narrator speaking about somebody else. So he did this, it was his, she went there, it was hers, they did this, the dog was theirs, third person. And again, feel free to pause this as much as you need to take a look at what we have. The last thing we're going to talk about for this lesson is the reflexive and intensive pronouns. And they're just formed by adding the ending self or selves to any personal pronoun. So, for example, myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, if it's just one person that we're talking about. More than one person, it's ourselves, yourselves, themselves. That's the difference between adding self and selves. I don't want you to get too hung up on this. A reflexive pronoun refers to the noun or the pronoun that is the subject of the sentence. It's needed to make the meaning clear. So did Matthew make himself a costume? It's reflexive. It's going back to Matthew. We need to know this information as part of the sentence because that's what we're asking. Did Matthew make himself a costume? The costume would be belonging to him. We can't drop the word himself without changing its meaning. Did Matthew make a costume? That's completely different than did Matthew make himself a costume. Did Matthew make a costume? Could be any costume at all. But we have this reflexive pronoun, himself being used as a reflexive pronoun, reflecting back on him as the subject. The costume was being made for him. And then finally, the intensive pronoun. It's not necessarily part of the sentence. It's included to add emphasis or intensity. It's an intensive pronoun to a noun or another noun in the sentence. So the mayor herself will be present opening night. Herself cannot be dropped from the sentence. Herself can be dropped from the sentence, and it would still make sense. The mayor will be present opening night. We add this intensive pronoun herself to intensify or emphasize that the mayor will be present at opening night. The homework is found on the website in case you miss it. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My students should have my email address. They could also call me as needed.